Before the war, Gaza was a vibrant, densely populated strip of land on the Mediterranean coast. Despite political and economic challenges, life went on for the 2.3 million Palestinians residing there. Hospitals and schools, many supported by the UNRWA, provided essential services. Markets bustled with activity and families strived for a semblance of normalcy. Gaza had endured years of blockade and conflict, but a fragile peace held. The scars of previous wars were visible, but the spirit of the people remained resilient. There was hope, however cautious, for a brighter future. The political climate was tense. Hamas, the governing authority in Gaza since 2007, had engaged in several conflicts with Israel. The underlying issues of the Israeli occupation, the blockade, and the right of return for Palestinian refugees remained unresolved. Despite these challenges, Gazans carried on with their lives, clinging to hope for a future free from conflict and deprivation. On October 7, 2023, that fragile peace was shattered. Hamas launched a surprise attack into southern Israel, a desperate gambit born of frustration and despair. The Israeli response was swift and devastating. The war, the most brutal in the long-running conflict, resulted in unimaginable destruction and loss of life. Entire neighborhoods in Gaza were reduced to rubble. Hospitals, already strained, were overwhelmed with casualties. The death toll on both sides was staggering. Thousands of Palestinians, including a disproportionate number of women and children, perished under the weight of relentless bombardment. The trauma inflicted on survivors, particularly children, will linger for generations. The war plunged Gaza into a humanitarian crisis of unprecedented proportions. The already dire situation, exacerbated by years of blockade, reached a breaking point. The war left Gaza's infrastructure in ruins. Hospitals, schools, water treatment plants, and power grids were systematically targeted, transforming the densely populated strip into a wasteland. The healthcare system, already fragile, collapsed under the weight of the casualties. The most basic necessities like food, clean water, and medicine became scarce. The risk of disease outbreaks, particularly waterborne illnesses, soared in the overcrowded and unsanitary conditions. The international community, with varying degrees of urgency, mobilized to provide aid. However, the scale of the crisis overwhelmed even the most well-intentioned efforts. The situation in Gaza remains dire. The international community must act decisively to address the humanitarian catastrophe and work towards a just and lasting solution. The international community's response to the crisis has been mixed. While some nations have stepped up with humanitarian aid, others have been criticized for their silence or complicity. The UN has called for an immediate ceasefire and an independent investigation into potential war crimes. The underlying issues that have fueled the conflict for decades remain unresolved. The question of Palestinian statehood, the right of return for refugees, and the status of Jerusalem continue to be major stumbling blocks. The path forward remains elusive. A lasting peace requires a fundamental shift in the dynamics of the conflict. It demands a commitment to dialogue, compromise, and a recognition of the legitimate aspirations of both Palestinians and Israelis. The world is watching. The question remains, will we continue to witness cycles of violence? Or will we finally summon the collective will to forge a just and lasting peace?